Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. What are IDAs? And I'm following up on my recent live, Basement Politics Unfiltered, episode 3, where I spoke about the Yonkers IDA. And I talked about it and I gave some details about the IDAs in general, the IDA Act of 1969, and the Yonkers IDA. And I mentioned who were the members of the board, also how it was organized, what projects, some of the projects that they've assisted financially, and how they have or have not benefited the city of Yonkers, and some other details, in particular, how it directly affected and impacted local labor here in the city of Yonkers. I wanted to start off by just giving a brief background of IDAs in general. Uh, IDAs were created through New York state legislation back in 1969. Hence, you have the IDA Act of 1969. Since 1969, New York State has allowed its counties and other local governments to establish industrial development agencies, IDAs. These public benefit corporations exist to encourage local economic development projects by offering financial incentives to development projects by by offering financial incentives to private companies with the goal of increasing job opportunities and overall economic welfare in the area. Now, that's important. I always like to stop there because I want to highlight that. It's very important. It's very important. The goal is increasing job opportunities and overall economic welfare in the area. So, the primary purpose, again, is for the IDA to increase job opportunities. And they are to do this in the area that they serve. So, again, New York State has allowed its counties and other local governments to establish IDAs. And in 1982, the city of Yonkers established its own IDA, the Yonkers Industrial Development Agency, or YIDA. The chairman of the YIDA is the mayor, Mike Spano. The executive director is Jamie McGill Spano, the mayor's sister-in-law. There are other five members of the board. There's also a bookkeeper, administrative assistant, and a chief financial officer, as well as a vice chairperson. And I'll give you those details in a bit. But going back to IDAs in general, a business may apply to any IDA that has jurisdiction in the area in which it operates or wishes to operate for support for proposed construction, expansion, or renovation. If the application is approved by the IDA, the property and improvements become an IDA project, and the business typically becomes a project operator. So if the IDA offers any financial assistance in the form of tax exemptions or financing, low interest or no interest financing, they become in charge. They are in charge of that project, I should say. So, and the business that is wishing to bring this project to that area becomes the project operator. IDA projects, IDA projects are eligible for exemption from taxes, including property, mortgage recording, and sales taxes for some purchases, and may be eligible for tax exempt financing through the IDA. So again, as I mentioned, some of the tax exemptions that they receive are property tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax exemptions, and sales and use tax exemptions, and may be also eligible for tax exempt financing, as well as interest free or low interest. IDAs are not permitted to impose taxes. Instead, they generally fund their operations by charging fees to the businesses that receive their financial assistance. However, IDA activities can affect state and local taxpayers. So this is important, right? If you're a taxpayer, if an IDA project is receiving property tax exemptions in a specific community, it can reduce a local government's or school district's property tax base, which may then increase other properties owners' tax bills. Again, if an IDA project is receiving property tax exemptions in a specific community, it can reduce a local government's or school district's property tax base, which may then increase the other property owner's tax bill. For this reason and others, the public should be kept informed of the financial activities associated with the local IDAs and their projects. So it's important. This is why I'm talking about it. And later on in the week, I will be speaking with members of Local 456, and I will be getting specific on certain projects that are actually going up or have gone up here in Yonkers. And we'll talk about the benefits that they've received, as well as what benefits, if any, they provided to the city. And of course, job creation is the primary goal, economic growth and prosperity. So it's very important that we know how many jobs are created, but it's also important. It's very important also that we look to projects that create long-term jobs, permanent jobs, jobs that are retained. It's great that jobs are created, even if on a temporary basis. However, it's even better if they can be retained. And from what I've seen, and I'll give you one example, in Alexander Street, down on Alexander Street, near the water, a project went up, 57 Alexander. It created 631 jobs. However, not many were retained. I believe it was two jobs. And I know it's better than nothing. Yes. But we should look to projects again, look to want to bring projects that are going to also provide more long-term jobs, more permanent jobs. And we also have to think about local labor. So even if these jobs are created on a temporary basis, if we are assuring that local labor is getting first dibs or becoming or are considered a priority, and they work to make sure that local labor is included, for the most part, in the projects going up, it could be on a temporary basis per project because they can go from project to project. Right? It's a good idea. I mean, I know there's a lot of companies out there. You have to share the work, understandably. But if local labor is being utilized, and let's say again, going back to the example of 57 Alexander Street, if 631 jobs are created, but only two are retained, That means that 629 people needed a job at the end of that project. So if they go and move on to the next project because, again, local labor is being considered, local labor is a priority, then it's like they're retaining the work because they're continuing to work. They're going from one project to the next. However, as it stands now, from my understanding, from talks with individuals affiliated with Local 456, local labor is not being utilized at all. At all. But it says right here, and I'll read it again. These public benefit corporations, IDAs, exist to encourage local economic development projects by offering financial incentives to private companies with the goal of increasing job opportunities and overall economic welfare in the area. Okay. So, why is it that local labor, local unions are saying, and also I am finding out through my own research and investigation, I guess? I should say more questioning or asking questions, that companies who are working on these developments are coming from as far as Rochester. There's actually language written in the IDA Act of 1969 that prohibits bringing outside businesses to do the jobs or the work or the project to build the developments. Because again, in the case with the Yonkers IDA, they should be utilizing local labor as the purpose is, again, to increase, create, or improve the job market, provide jobs for the area in which the particular IDA serves. In this case, the YIDA serves Yonkers. So why is it that the development on Ravine going up soon has a company from Rochester? And from what I understand, even the food truck guys are coming from Jersey. Do we not have any food truck operators here in the city of Yonkers, or at least in Westchester County? I see them a lot. What about Mrs. Softy? Can Mrs. Softy come by? IDAs are not permitted to impose taxes. Instead, they generally fund their operations by charging fees to the businesses, again, that receive their financial assistance. However, IDA activities, again, and I want to read this again because it's very important, can affect state and local taxpayers. So if an IDA project receives tax breaks, it lowers the tax base in that particular area. In this case, again, Yonkers. As a result, there's an increase in other taxpayers' bills or tax liabilities. So if the IDA project is receiving property tax exemptions, It can reduce a local government's or school district's property tax base, which may then increase other property owners' tax bills. So, for this reason, the public should be informed of the financial activities associated with your local IDA. You should. And this is why I do the show. This is Basement Politics, what it's all about. So, I wanted to put on a Basement Politics Unfiltered, what are IDAs, to just break down and be more detailed on IDAs. What do they do? Their purpose. What can't they do? And how they do what they do. State law requires that IDAs submit an annual report on every project receiving financial assistance, showing the estimated value of any tax exemptions realized by the project's operators and the project's total amount of outstanding debt. IDAs must also report an estimate of the number of jobs each project would create or retain at the start of the project and the net number of jobs gained or losses to date. Right? So I read off some of that stuff on the live, and I'll read off a couple here again, just to give you an idea of how bad of a job it's doing, at least in retaining jobs. But some projects don't even create jobs at all, whether permanent or temporary. So this is a report from this is a Performance of Industrial Development Agency's report from 2020. It's an annual report. And in doing my research in the IDAs and in the YIDA, but IDAs in general, because the goal is to talk about what IDAs are, and not just specifically Yonkers IDA, although that is the one we will be talking about mostly. But I think it's important that we have an overall understanding of what IDAs are in general. What are they there for, right? Because it's very important. It affects and impacts the community in many, many ways. Many ways. Many ways. And here in Yonkers, we are seeing it, and many people are voicing their concerns. So I wanted to discuss it and also provide as much information as possible, so people can be more informed if they don't already know this. And also, I encourage you to go and do your own research. Right, go out there online and learn this stuff, because it's very important to know and understand, and it's the only way you're going to be most effective if you are one of those who has a concern, right? Projects. Let's talk about the IDA projects. What type of projects they fund or assist. IDAs generally provide incentives for individual economic development projects. And IDA does this by entering into a lease agreement with the benefit that will be operating the project. With the business that will be operating the project. The project operator transfers the title of the relevant property to the IDA. Okay. Since the IDA is tax exempt and has access to the municipal bond market, it confers those benefits on the project so long as it holds the title. Okay. So I see how they work that. So basically what they're saying there is that the business transfer over the property, the title to the property. So technically at that point, the IDA owns the property. So now that property is entitled to benefits, tax breaks, and access to a bond market that would otherwise not be available to the project if it were strictly operating on its own, using its own private funding and other private resources and sources. Resources, I should say, and other sourcing of capital. So, because again, that they take over the title of that property, they are now they have access to these benefits, right? That will ultimately help out the project and get it completed. In 2018, IDAs reported 4,289 active projects with a total project value of $106 billion. $106 billion. Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot. The IDA leases the property back. So once they take the title, they lease the property back on the project, back to the project operator for the duration of the project. Each year, every IDA has to report information on each project to which it holds title, including its value and what type of project it is. So they're supposed to be reporting this information, right? They're supposed to be documenting all this. However, from what I've read, they don't do such a great job. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? There were 13 projects in 2018, each valued at, and by the way, that's why I'm using reading from information from documents and reports from 2018, because again, the reports are not, they're not collected. Data's not collected. The studies are not done often in a timely manner when they're supposed to be. So there's a lot of missing data, according to this annual report here. Right? This report states that. So again, there were 13 projects, each valued at 1 billion or more. Wow, representing 32.9 billion collectively, which was over 31% of the total value of all project. Wow. So again, different counties have IDAs, towns, cities. The Dutchess County IDA and the city of Glen Cove, which is out in Long Island, IDA each had one of these projects. The Saratoga County IDA had two, and the rest were New York City IDAs. Wow. Well, New York City is expensive. Anything there is expensive. You want to build some Legos, you're going to pay $150 for that. Just imagine a building. Wow. So there's a lot of projects going up throughout the state of New York. A lot of developments. 2021, obviously, actually getting close to 2022, especially here in Yonkers, and particularly, we see it. We see the developments, and as I mentioned in the live, they are actually doing what's known as the Alexander Street Master Plan, which is this big development that's yet to be completed. However, it broke ground back in 2019. So it's going to be a huge project once it's done. And it's all to create this Hudson River Walk, right? From Manhattan all the way up to Albany. And the river towns along the way will be like hubs. You're walking by, you're riding your bike, rollerblading. I don't know what else they're going to have. There'll be different, like I'm sure, marinas that you can pull up in. If you want to go, if you're some rich guy in Manhattan and then you got a yacht, say, hey, let's go up to Yonkers. They do that now, or let's go up to Hastings, or let's go up to Irvington in the yacht. And it's a nice restaurant out there. It's going to be a lot of nice restaurants out there. Or let's go in the yacht and pull up to the Yonkers Brewing Company and grab a couple cold ones, some IPAs. I don't know what those are. I don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is not my thing, but I see that a lot. So the majority, the majority of projects, 61%, were located in New York State's upstate region, and accounted for 41% of the total value of all projects. Downstate projects accounted for nearly 59% of the total value. The Capital District region had the highest total project value upstate with 13.1 billion, while New York City had the highest downstate with 30.9 billion. Well, they're doing a lot of stuff up there, right? Upstate. What's going on up there? They know a lot of people want to get the heck out of Manhattan. Well, they're coming to Yonkers. I don't know how far they're going to go up. Tax exemptions. So let's talk about the tax exemptions, right? This is some of the benefits that the developers receive, the project operators, as they're known. IDA projects are generally exempt from local taxes that fund local governments and school districts. However, project operators will often make payments in lieu of taxes. Pilot to the taxing jurisdiction in which projects are located in order to offset some of the expected tax revenue losses. Right. So instead of paying the property tax, right, they can cut a deal. They can make a payment in lieu of taxes. Instead of taxes, they make this lump sum payment known as a pilot to the jurisdiction. In our example, Yonkers, they make a payment, a lump sum payment, which are a lot lower, right? So that's a benefit to the developer. That's a huge savings many times, right? Let's calculate that. IDAs are required to establish uniform tax exemption policies with limited input from affected tax jurisdictions to provide specific guidelines on eligibility for certain tax exemptions. Again, IDAs are required to establish uniform tax exemption policies with limited input from affected tax jurisdiction to provide specific guidelines on eligibility for certain tax exemptions. Right. So, again, that's important. That's important. The exemptions granted from the state sales taxes, from the state sales tax and mortgage recording tax, and from local sales tax and property taxes may encourage business activity in the state while reducing the public resources available for government sources. Are you taking one thing for another? Again, the exemptions granted may encourage business activity in the state while reducing the public resources available for government services. I'm sorry. Really? What business activity? If they got the food trucks coming from Jersey, I mean, really, construction workers and guys that are in that, they usually bring their lunch or their own lunch, or you got those carts, those food truck things. But from what I understand and from what I'm hearing, I should say, they're coming from Jersey. So it's not even local. So, I mean, that's just a problem. That's just one of the many problems. In 2018, and again, this is 2020 report, an annual report, but they give data here from 2018. In 2018, tax exemptions totaled nearly 1.5 billion, with property exemptions accounting for over 86%. Overall net tax exemptions, total tax exemptions minus pilots, were valued at 784 million, up 33 million or 4.4% from the previous year. IDAs from downstate regions, that would be us, granted 898 million in total tax exemptions. Wow, they did more up there upstate. Nearly 62% of the exemptions issued in the issued in the state, while nearly 60% of exemptions issued in the state, while upstate IDAs granted almost 555 million. I'm sorry, no, they didn't. Actually, downstate did more. 1.5 billion with the total. IDA's downstate regions granted 898 million. So that's us here, but that also includes obviously New York City and many other IDAs in the downstate area. We're downstate. Yonkers is not upstate. For all those who consider Yonkers upstate, it's not upstate. We're literally without traffic, 20 minutes from Manhattan, if that. Without traffic. That's without traffic. See, Yonkers is, I'm sorry, New York, particularly down in the downstate area. I mean, it can take you 2 hours to get somewhere that should take 10 minutes. But traffic is crazy. Traffic is crazy. And don't get caught up in a snowstorm. You'll be stuck trying to get from one side of Yonkers to the other for a few hours. So the downstate region, which will be us, so we'll just talk about that, granted 898 million in total tax exemptions. That's nearly 62% of exemptions issued in the state. So more than 50% came from downstate. But again, we have New York City, and that's they had a majority of the $1 billion projects. So that's to be expected. Conduit debt, right? So let's talk about bonds. This is another way that the IDA provides a benefit to developers, right? Conduit debt. IDAs can issue conduit debt in the form of bonds on behalf of a project operator to finance projects. So again, if a project operator needs funding, an IDA will issue bonds. These are debt instruments, right? Bonds are investments for people who are looking to usually they're safer, looking to invest in more safer, less low risk type of investments. Bonds, people usually will hedge their investments with their equity investments with debt investments like bonds, treasuries, T-bills. So that's just a way of kind of hedging yourself and protecting yourself in rough times. So usually cities, municipalities have a decent credit score. I'll call it that. But it's also known as a Moody's rating or a standard S&P. Also does a rating system of the local municipalities. Yonkers is one that issues bonds. So, based on their rating or credit score, it will determine how risky that bond is. The more risk, the more a reward, right? So the more you stand to make once that bond matures. Now that's a whole nother thing that I can get into, which I will be some of it in my workshops that I will be doing at the educational center once I get my certificate of occupancy. Jimmy, I met a gentleman by the name of Jimmy, building inspector for the city of Yonkers. It didn't start on a good note. We didn't get off on the right foot. We got off on the left foot because it went left right away. Jimmy came over with two members of the Yonkers Fire Department, one of them a marshal, the other a lieutenant. I thought I was going to get arrested, but none of them were cops. I don't know why. The way they approached me, but they saw me. They were at another business, attending to that new business that's opening up, and they came on over. They said, "Hey, there goes the owner of the place we've been having this issue with. Let me go over there and speak to the guy." So they came on over, surprisingly, and they did come a little aggressively. And you know me. Well, if you don't know me, I respond back in the manner that you approach me with. So obviously, I had my aggressive stance, and we kind of went back and forth. And I think they quickly realized that maybe this guy is not just gonna believe whatever we say. But again, I'm not, because we ended on a good note. Everything went well, went smooth. They're gonna be helping me, but you know, they threatened some things. But hopefully they'll be helping me out now. They told me they would go a little above and beyond to help me out because I have been going back and forth with the building department over my educational uh, child care center. So currently, we're not operating during the day until we get the building department, the OCFS, which is the licensing agency for child cares here in the state of New York, or maybe in the country. I'm not sure. Uh, they came, they've inspected, we're good to go. But the dreaded Yonkers building department, and it costing me a lot of money. And again, they threatened to shut down the building, condemn it. Hey, that's not why I do it. I don't do it to make money. You shut me down, you're saving me money. You're doing me a favor in a sense, but it's not a favor because what I'm there for is to help the community. So anyway, back to what I was the why IDA and IDAs, but the point of that is that once I get that uh, certificate of occupancy, we'll be rocking and rolling. We'll be up and running, and we'll be doing free financial literacy and investing workshops. So look out for that. Anyone interested in learning a little bit about stock market and real estate investing, and we will talk about bonds. So going back to conduit debt and the bonds issued by the YIDA or any IDA for that matter in the state of New York as a way of providing funding for a project or to a developer, right? And that's one of the benefits that they're providing. So IDAs can issue conduit debt in the form of bonds, again, on behalf of a project operator to finance project. The project operator is solely responsible for repayment and security of the debt. The IDA merely provides access. So this is the benefit that they provide with the funding, is that they provide them access to the municipal bond market. I'm sorry. So what is the municipal bond market? Well, that's a market where bonds are issued, bought, and sold from different local municipalities, different cities, agency, towns, counties, or whatever. So these are all government cities and whatever that are issuing. These are not just private companies or corporations that are issuing the debt. And so you can't obviously, if you're not a city, town, or whatever, you can't have access to this municipal bond market. So they allowed to get access to it. They issue bonds in order to provide them with funding for the project. This was a popular option in prior decades when a combination of higher interest rates on private bonds, right? It's not the private market, and favorable tax treatment made IDA funding very attractive. However, over the past decade, outstanding IDA conduit debt has declined, likely because more businesses have been able to borrow at lower interest rates than in prior decades. Makes sense? Another factor may be that the authorization for IDAs to finance civic facility projects was withdrawn in 2008. Over the same time period, the number of local development projects was with the number of local development corporations or LDCs, which can do so, has grown as has LDC total outstanding conduit debt. In 2018, IDAs issued $453 million in new conduit debt, contributing to a total amount outstanding of $7.7 billion, a decrease of 2.8%, or nearly $224 million from the 2017. Again, this is data from 2018, although the report is from 2020. Since 2011, conduit debt outstanding has declined 60%, or $11.5 billion. Well, that's good. Downstate IDAs accounted for over 4.6. That's us, people in Yonkers, Westchester County. Downstate IDAs in New York City accounted for over 4.6 billion, or 60% of the outstanding conduit debt, with New York City accounting for 66% of that 4.6 billion at 3.1 billion. Upstate's regions had over 3.1 billion outstanding conduit debt, with nearly 35% held by IDAs in the Western New York region. So New York City alone had the same amount of debt, had issued the same amount of bonds uh, um, as the entire upstate region alone. One dude's in charge of that. Who's running the show over there? The mayor, city mayor, New York City. Um, Employment project, and this is very important. This part especially is, I mean, it's definitely, all of it is important. It's definitely important to understand how they receive the benefits, what kind of tax exemptions, and how do it affect the people in those towns. But this is also important because these are the part of the benefits that we receive. What I mentioned in terms of the taxes, tax benefits, and the financing and funding and access to the municipal bond market, it's a benefit that the developers or project operators receive. Now, what are the benefits that we, the people of the cities and municipalities, towns, or counties that are giving out these benefits? Project applicants are required to estimate the number of full-time equivalent jobs that their projects will create or retained. Since improving local employment opportunities is one of the major goals, I'm going to repeat that. Since improving local employment opportunities is one of the major goals of most IDA projects, in order to track the eventual accomplishment of job creation and retention goals, project operators have to report the total number of employees at the start of a project and for every year thereafter until the project comes to an end. And when they say that job creation and retention is the primary goal for most project operators, that doesn't mean that there's a whole bunch of other reasons they can give out these benefits for. And another reason is to improve commerce and to bring about economic prosperity to the area that IDA serves. So again, going back to our example, those who live in Yonkers, it would be Yonkers. So all those developments that are going up, whether it be on the waterfront or a little bit away from the waterfront, wherever, they should be providing a benefit to the city of Yonkers if they are receiving YIDA benefits, right? So we need to know where's that information at. Is it on the webpage? Where could we go see? And because I think it's important for the people to know, right? If we're gonna have to, you know, uh, be okay with, right? Because we really don't have a choice with the developments coming in. Oh, we do have a choice, actually. We could definitely rise up. You ready to do that, folks? We could, if the developers coming in, right? If we have to deal with that and the increased traffic and also the reduction of our property base, right? And potentially increasing our property taxes, we should know what benefits do we receive for that. I mean, it's very important. We can't just sit around and let things just go up around us. I mean, I don't plan on moving anywhere anytime soon, and I don't want to have to because it's getting so crowded that I need to get away. And I do enjoy getting away often too. Just nothing but nature, land, open space. That's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm someone who is very much aware of the increasing population, increasing traffic, increasing everything. Central Avenue, Ashburton, Yonkers Avenue, Nepperhan, Ashburn Avenue. It's getting crazier and crazier, but also we having to look at some of the other side effects as well, an increase in homelessness, increase in drug addiction. And yes, that's not necessarily brought on by the developments. However, however, having a housing problem does contribute to homelessness. So if the developers are not giving benefits back to the community, particularly in the form of more affordable housing, helping or being willing to work with an increase in the affordable housing ordinance, right? That's a benefit. That's definitely a benefit. I think the people want that, right? So again, this is very important, this part here about the employment, because next week hopefully next week I will be speaking with members of a local 456, and one of their issues, their primary issue is the lack of local labor being utilized on these projects, especially because they're receiving benefits, right? So where's the exchange? What are we receiving? I mean, we have to be receiving something, right? Not just economic prosperity, I guess, but for who? The majority of the people in that area that's being affected are not business owners. The business owners don't live there a lot of times. And if they do, it's very few. And it's usually because they own the local bodegas, which are mainly, primarily utilized by the local residents in that particular street. So it's not like people from who are moving in from all over are coming out and going into Getty Square unless they're jogging. I noticed that you don't usually go to shop, eat, or anything else through the hood, but you'll jog through the hood. I guess you figure you're running, you just you can outrun us, right? You jog, you could probably outrun somebody trying to rob you. so, um, so that's very important. We have to focus on that part of this employment, job creation. In 2018, project operators reported expecting that their projects would create 229,257 jobs and retain another 280,932 jobs. The median salary of jobs to be created was estimated at, and this is in 2018, $38,570 $38,570. That's the estimated median income for the jobs that were going to be created. 38,000, just under $39,000. That's in 2018. So I would like to know what that would be in 2021. Maybe that should be coming out next year. Again, this is a 2020 study. The data is from 2018. According to this study, financial reporting is not done the best with the IDAs. They're just not good at that for some reason. They're just not good at that. A total of 34,682 temporary construction jobs also have been created, according to the project operators. 2/3, or 2,844 of all projects resulted in net job gains. So 2/3 produced gains in jobs. So they did create some jobs. But again, yes, I've seen jobs created, mostly temporary jobs, and I have seen jobs retained. But I mean, I've seen 2, 5, 7. Again, I give an example of 57 Alexander Street and the whole master plan that they're doing there in Alexander Street. It's creating 631 jobs. 2 retain. 2. That's crazy. Again, temporary jobs are better than no jobs. And I would even stand by that a lot more if local labor were being utilized and the labor were not coming from Rockland County or Rochester, right? Or we don't have the food service trucks coming from Jersey. Local businesses, local labor. So if it's temporary jobs, okay, well, it's temporary, but guess what? We got a lot of projects going up. We're moving on to the next. But if they're not being utilized, then who are the 631 people that worked at these temporary positions? Where did they come from? Where did they come from? So again, this is a lot of stuff I don't hear much in the elections or the campaigns. I don't know. I would be champion if. Well, I have to find more information. I'm going to be talking to some gentlemen. I'm going to look into a little more when I have time because I work like crazy. But I'm trying. But I will look into it and see where they're coming from. Where the I hear Rockland County. I hear the food trucks are from Jersey. So we'll be talking to the again local 456, and hopefully we'll get some more answers there. Finances. IDA must pay for their own administrative expenses, including personal and overhead costs. These expenses are largely funded with project fees, and IDAs may also collect rent on properties they own. And I had a question not too long ago about that. So, yeah, I'm starting to understand why they own the properties and hold the titles to the properties. The IDA financial data submitted in annual reports include revenues, expenditures, liabilities, net assets, and a list of the full-time and part-time staff showing salaries, benefits, and other compensation. In 2018, total IDA revenues, $96.3 million, increased by 0.5% from the previous year, while total expenditures, $98.7 million, decreased by 3.3%. Or 98.7 million. I won't read about Erie County. We don't really, I don't know. We don't care about Erie County. No disrespect. Charges for services was the largest source of revenues, amounting to 54% or 52 million of total revenues. Other operating expenditures, which consist of supplies and materials, was the largest spending category, accounting for 29% or 28.5 million. Downstate, that's us, IDAs, received 28.8 million in total revenues 2018, while upstate collected over twice as much. Expenses downstate at 24.1 million total for 2018. Okay, those are finances. And I have a nice little chart here. If you want interested, you can look at this report. It's called the Performance of Industrial Development Agencies in New York State 2020 Annual Report. Division of Local Government and School Accountability Source, OSC, Paris. Yeah, so you can go check that out online if you're interested. And it has some nice little charts here you can take a look at. Now, LDCs, local development corporations, are similar to IDAs. They are like a private nonprofit corporation Our LDCs are established by or for the benefit of local governments for economic development and other public purposes. State law provides that LDCs may carry out the functions of lessening the burdens of government and acting in the public's interest. So, just if you're interested in that, but let me talk about the mission. What is the mission of IDAs? Right, because they have a mission. Industrial development agencies are public benefit corporations. Someone had a question. There you go. It's a public benefit corporation originally authorized by Industrial Development Agency Act of 1969 and governed by the provisions of Article 18A of the General Municipal Law. Since that time, 177 IDAs have been legislatively authorized, and 115 remain active to this day. The distribution of IDAs throughout the state of New York is far from uniform. Although each county of the state is served by an IDA, again, each county is served by an IDA. Some counties contain as many as 7 IDAs. Wow. And I believe that, I'm not sure. I believe Mount Vernon has an idea. They're looking to establish an IDA, I believe. But obviously, in 1982, the Yonkers IDA was established. It was created. So we definitely have one. We definitely have one. According to the authorizing statute, right? This is important. Again, very important to understand this. The purpose of an IDA is to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in acquiring, constructing, improving, maintaining, or equipping certain facilities, thereby advancing the job opportunities. Again, there it goes with the jobs. Advancing the job opportunities, health, general prosperity, and the economic welfare of the people of New York, right? That's the general IDA. But in terms of the YIDA, the Yonkers IDA, it would go as follows: advancing the job opportunities, health, general prosperity, and the economic welfare of the people of Yonkers. That's how it would go. Each IDA is an independent public benefit corporation established by a special act of the state legislature at the request of a sponsoring municipality, and each is expected to act in the interest of that particular local government and its residents. Let me repeat that again. I shall repeat that again. All right. So each IDA is an independent public benefit corporation established by a special act of the state legislature at the request of a sponsoring municipality, and each is expected to act in the interest of that particular local government and its residents. There you have it. I'm done. That's all you need to know. Right? I think that's the key point there. It's key. It's key. Each IDA is an independent public corporation. Again, it's a public benefit corporation. So they're each independent of each other. And they are a public benefit corporation. So there you go. That's what type of entity they are. Someone had asked me about that. Although administrative arrangements may vary considerably, an IDA is generally governed by a board consisting of 3 to 7 members. Well, in the city of Yonkers here, it consists of 7 members. And the mayor will always be the chairman of the board. The Industrial Development Agency Act stipulates that, except as may be provided by a special act, board members must be appointed by the governing board of each sponsoring municipality and may include local government representatives, employees, and officials, as well as members of school boards. Look at that. Members of school board. Check this one out. Organized labor. So I think it would be a good idea to have a member of organized labor on this board. I mean, considering that it's heavily involved in the creation of development projects, which rely on construction, right? And relies on a lot of the trades and jobs that are represented by many of the local union, by organized labor. So there you go. There you go. I think that's super important. That's another important fact to know. Again, again, each sponsoring municipality and may include local government representative, employees, and officials, as well as members of school boards, organized labor, and business groups. There is, however, no requirement that such affected entities be proportionally represented on the IDA board. Obviously. I mean, let me know what you think. Comment. I believe that someone that represents organized labor should be on the board. And I'll mention that when I speak to the gentleman from 456, 456. And I'll see what they think about that. I'm sure they'll agree. I'm very sure that they'll agree. IDAs are required to hold a public hearing before approving any project. I see those blue signs, public hearings. Does anyone pay attention to them? I do. I the public variance signs, and I you know, like blue and very dull looking, unattractive. If you weren't someone like me who just looks at everything and wonders what it is, if I don't already know what it is, you wouldn't notice it. It's just a sign that they put on the fence. Sometimes the weeds and stuff that are growing out of the piece of land there are kind of going over it. And I want to know how many people actually attend these public hearings. I think I'm going to go to one of them. I'm going to show up with my camera. I'm going to come with this guy, this furry guy here, like I did at the city council meeting. Thought that was funny. I came late and I walked in with that furry thing there. It's a boom mic, mini boom mic. And I want to see how many people are actually attending these public hearings. Again, IDAs are required to hold a public hearing before approving any project for which financial assistance of more than $100,000 is proposed to be provided. But there is no requirement that the IDA board members attend or respond to any questions or objections raised at such hearing. So what the heck is the point of the hearing? If I can't voice my opinion, why would I attend? I don't want to just hear myself talk or any of you talk if it's not going to get us anywhere. Unbelievable. IDAs can offer several benefits to private companies as inducements for them to relocate to, expand in, or remain in their jurisdictions. Statute provides the following. IDAs have been legally empowered to acquire, own, and dispose of property. IDAs are able to directly issue debt, Real property owned by IDAs is exempt from property taxes and mortgage recording taxes. Purchases made in support of an approved project are eligible from exemptions from state and local sales tax. However, IDAs do not have taxation powers and thus typically maintain their operation by charging various fees to the businesses that participate in their projects. That's how they make their money. One of the ways. Tax exempts and pilots. And I'll be real quick. Again, the tax exemptions, and I mentioned this in the live that they received, are mortgage recording tax exemptions, real property tax exemptions, and sales and use tax exemptions. Real property owned by an IDA is entitled to an exemption from real property taxes. These exemptions are passed through to assisted businesses. In most cases, a portion of the property taxes foregone is recaptured via payments in lieu of taxes made by recipients of IDA benefits to affected taxing jurisdictions. Pilot agreements are required to be in writing and to specify the amount due annually to each affected taxing jurisdiction, which are responsible for the pilot collection. Notably, however, because the revenue received through the use of a pilot is always not typically less than the real property taxes abated, they represent only partial compensation to the local governments involved. Over 23,000 real property tax exemptions valued at $47.5 billion were given for industrial, commercial, and public service properties in 2003. Wow. About 4,800 of those exemptions valued at $18 billion were granted in conjunction with IDA activities. So they provide these benefits, and I think that's why it's important to understand which tax, what taxes. What do you mean when you say they get tax breaks? What do you mean? How and how does that affect me? How does that affect us? How does that affect Joe and Jane, resident of Yonkers? How does that affect us? It's as important. IDAs are also generally prohibited from providing financial assistance for retail projects. Retail ventures are treated differently because they usually do not increase the level of regional jobs or economic activity and can damage local competitors or put them out of business. So then why did Ridge Hill receive benefits? Well, maybe this will answer it. Although assistance for retail projects is generally prohibited, statutes allow for a number of exceptions to the rule. There's always an exception to the rule, Mr. Loophole. The exception includes tourism destination projects. Oh, yeah. What do you think Ridge Hill is? It's a tourist destination for people who live in the Bronx. It's exactly what it is. I see how they got around it. Makes a lot of sense now. Projects operated by not-for-profit corporations as well as other projects located in highly distressed areas. Moreover, financial assistance may also be provided to retail projects where the project occupant would, but for the assistance provided by the agency, locate the related jobs outside the state. I got you. We wanted to retain jobs. So in a sense, they will do it if it's going to retain the jobs, keep the jobs. Get out of here. Civic facilities. In 1986, legislation intended to attract and retain nonprofit organizations authorized IDAs to provide financial assistance for the construction of civic facilities for not-for-profit corporations. That's good to know. Sorry, got a little excited there. They do those things when I get excited. Uh-huh. Anyway, in 1988, the cap was removed entirely. And then, I'm sorry, let me read from the top here because I just skipped the whole thing. My thought just drove, I just had an idea anyway. Sorry. Got me a little distracted there. A civic facility was then in 1986 anyway, defined as a facility owned or occupied by a not-for-profit corporation organized and existing under the laws of this state, but not including convention centers, housing facilities, or medical facilities, which were predominantly used for the delivery of medical services. Additionally, a cap on the amount of financing an IDA could provide to civic facilities projects was set at 25%. Of the average of the IDA's total bond issuance over the preceding 3 calendar years. But in 1988, the cap was removed entirely, and in 1993, several other types of projects, dormitories for educational institutions, water sewer systems, and public facilities for use by municipalities uh, in the performance of its governmental functions were specifically excluded from the definition of civic facilities. By 1997, some of these excluded projects types, such as housing and medical facility projects, were reinserted in the definition of civic facilities, but made subject to a static cap of 15 million for the total cost of such project. That's still a lot. That's still a lot of money. And let me go to reporting requirements because this is very important. Current IDA reporting requirements oversight rules arose are a result of reform in the late 1980s and the early 1990s that were enacted to improve the accountability of IDAs. Legislation enacted in 1989 added Section 859 of the General Municipal Law, which required every IDA to file an annual financial statement. Where can I locate that, Yonkers? Where can I locate that at? Hmm? Was it funny? Where can I locate those files? Um, the state comptroller is I guess that's where in the state they were supposed to file this with the state comptroller, the Commissioner of Economic Development, and the governing board of the municipality for who benefit the IDA was created. Oh, so Yonkers, yeah, Yonkers. Where the data? Where's the financial statements? I'd like to see that. It specifically requires that these statements include data concerning assistance provided and jobs created, retained for each project, and provided for the comptroller to prescribe their format. Additionally, each IDA was required to have its annual financial statement independently audited within 90 days of the end of its fiscal year and to file the audited statement within the subsequent 30 days. Let's see if that gets done. Moreover, the Commissioner of Economic Development was required to annually issue a report that summarized IDA activities statewide. I'm going to look into that. Legislation enacted in 1993, Chapter 356 of the laws of 1993 was intended to make IDAs more accountable to sponsoring municipalities and the public and to address other concerns without unduly limiting IDA flexibility. In particular, this legislation required each IDA to adopt a uniform tax exemption policy and contains provisions for the state comptroller to determine if each IDA has filed a substantially complete financial statement. Let's see if they've been doing that. Now, I think that would there would be more transparency and even more oversight if possibly they didn't make, or Yonkers didn't allow for the mayor to be the chair of the YIDA again. And it's not because I'm saying anything wrong is going on there, but I think that, right, the current mayor here is great. He's done a lot for the city, but there could be someone that can come in, right, and then they can not do the right thing by the city. And who's giving the oversight at that point? Who's providing the oversight, I should say, at that point, right? So I think that there would be an incentive for real oversight if the mayor maybe had to remain independent, separate, not involved at all, right? Only involved to oversee and make sure that they're following the rules and they're doing right by the city and the people of the city of Yonkers. I don't know. Maybe that's just something, especially after Rubo's comment, regarding the veto and the fact that the YIDA would need to cooperate. And maybe that's why the mayor vetoed, right? Because he knew back then, hey, I'm going to have to give more in benefits, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to these guys. I'm giving them enough. Right? So, with respect to the reporting of tax exemptions, it is clear that IDAs have different interpretations regarding the calculation of exemptions. Simple mathematical miscalculations or inattention may also be the cause of erroneous reporting of total exemptions. Yeah, I'm sure that's the only reason. The amount of reported and total exemptions should equal the sum of all sales tax, real property tax, and mortgage recording tax exemptions. Pretty simple math, right? Just add it up. Pilots, similar programs exist with the reporting of pilots. Added checks indicate that often the total pilot field does not add up to the sum of its parts. Local pilot, county pilot. Again, this may be explained by simple mathematical miscalculation or inattention to detail. What about corrupt individuals? Right? I'm sure throughout New York State, there's some corrupt individuals out there who are purposely not accurately accounting for this stuff, right? Missing data. Some parts contain data categories without any information reported. This problem most often prevails in the reporting of current job data. Why is that? Because they don't actually provide much in job creation for the area that the IDA serves. They're bringing outside labor. It'll show up. It'll be a pattern. It's like, well, you're bringing in all this temporary work, but then there's not much jobs retained. Why is that? And it's an issue with project codes. New projects are still being reported without the necessary project code assigned. IDAs have been given detailed instructions on the parameters for assigning project codes, and yet in some cases they still fail to assign them. This is not conducive to tracking individual project-related activities across agencies. Why are there so many problems? All right. What's with all the problems? Just wanted to read a little bit of that and give you an idea of some of the issues they have with reporting and data collection, right? And keeping track of the data. Like with Donald Rumsfeld, the day before 9/11, on September 10th, 2001, he went up and spoke to the country and told them that, hey, I don't know where like $3 trillion or something like that went. $2 trillion disappeared. I don't know. It just disappeared magically. Somebody just stuffed it down their pants and walked out of the Pentagon. Somebody from Halliburton, maybe. Evaluations of IDA operations. IDA proponents argue that the financing and tax incentives provided by IDA encourages firms to relocate to, remain in, or expand in New York State, and are therefore beneficial to employment. The economy and the tax base. I'm sorry, therefore beneficial to employment, the economy, and the tax base. I just had a thought. I'm sorry, that's why I stopped. Yes, but if it's a IDA, again, from Yonkers, let's say, and it's not having utilizing local labor, then it's not doing his job. Unfortunately, let's read this. Unfortunately, due to problems in the reliability of job and other reporting data, it is often difficult to assess um, the veracity of these assertions. Indeed, most studies have found that these claims simply cannot be independently evaluated. Overall, evidence about the success of IDA operations has been mixed. Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. So, are the IDAs beneficial? Do they serve a real purpose? Again, I like to volunteer my time. I go in these negotiations. I want to see what they like. I want to see if they invite me in there. I want to negotiate for the community. We need some benefits. I'm going to start off by saying we need to do something about housing. We also need to do something about utilizing local labor. Can you guys build homeless shelters or only market rate rentals? Because we need those. Can any of you build me a community center? I have the dopest idea. I need one of you cool developers and some IDA money. Hey, not kidding. Shoot, why not? Just kidding, just kidding. No, but no, honestly, I'm not kidding. We need centers. We need this. We need an increase in the affordable housing ordinance. We need more affordable housing developments in general. We need homeless shelters. We need programs for drug addiction. We need to help individuals who are suffering from mental illness. I know it's not your responsibility. I know. I know. But have a heart. Have a heart. I wish I can build all the homeless shelters. Um, but I mean, these are some things that we can talk about, right? Am I just a dreamer? Like John Lennon over here, imagining all this? Again, I volunteer my time. I love to sit in one of those meetings. So again, unfortunately, due to problems in the reliability of job and other reporting data, it is often difficult to assess the veracity of these assertions. Yeah, they can't. They can't validate the claims there. Indeed, most studies have found that these claims simply cannot be independently evaluated. Overall evidence about the success of IDA, again, operations has been mixed. All right. So, I mean, it's not like they're saying, yes, they're great, they work, they're mixed. They can't even tell us, if they're really truly beneficial and they're worth, In 1992, a study by the Fiscal Policy Institute concluded that the benefits of IDAs are questionable, while the cost of IDAs in terms of foregone tax revenue are clear and substantial. Again, this was a study conducted by the Fiscal Policy Institute. And it concluded that the benefits of the IDAs are questionable, while the cost of the IDAs in terms of foregone tax revenue are clear and substantial. Anybody get that? Well, whether or not they are beneficial, I don't know. But what we do know is that they're costing us a lot of money. A lot of money. Another 1992 examination of the state's IDAs found that IDAs routinely provide support to projects that would have been completed without such assistance. So they're providing benefits to projects that don't need the benefits. Why is that? Why do you think that is? You tell me. You tell me. Existing relationships between developers and IDAs often determine which projects are granted access. Politically connected contractors, consultant, attorneys, and IDA board members similarly benefit from and determine which applications for IDA assistance are approved. Piracy, piracy is commonplace, and IDAs whose fees are based on a percentage of project-related bond issues are induced to support large projects. Again, industrial development agencies in New York, Office of the State Comptroller. This is where I'm reading it from. It's there. It's there. So, I mean, this is a problem all over, apparently. And what's being done? And what's being done? Right? Conversely, a 1993 study largely dismissed questions about the credibility of applicants' threats to leave an area. Look at this, right? So this is the big argument here. This is the big argument. A 1993 study dismissed questions about the credibility of applicants' threats to leave an area, posted that IDAs have mostly been successful, and asserted that a comprehensive economic development strategy for New York State must emphasize both job creation and job retention. This is a big deal here. This is a big deal. I think this is a big deal. Thoughts? Thoughts? Similarly, in 1995, the New York State Economic Development Council, then representing 41 IDAs, used the amount of IDA activity, example, bonds issued, as an indication of the amount of economic development benefits created by the IDAs. Moreover, the council speculated that increased state oversight of IDAs could lead to centralized decision-making regarding potential projects, and thus make project selection process more vulnerable to political manipulation. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, Mr. Animal Farm. Humans just corrupt everything, right? Is that what it is? We just can't do anything right? Yeah, somehow we just gonna take advantage of it. Just how we are. A 1996 analysis of all projects approved by IDAs in 1994 and 1995 found that while most of the projects approved involved the relocation, expansion, or improvement of existing New York businesses, the cost of selective support of some businesses who must be subsidized by others paying comparatively higher taxes goes unconsidered. To help uh, um, alleviate or to help eliminate this trend, this report recommended that new IDAs be created only at the county level and that IDAs be required to obtain permission from an applicant's local IDA before offering assistance to a business in another area of the state. Do I look nice? But this time I just want to look nice. IDA stuff. Super business like because this is serious business. This is serious business. In 1997, State Review of Annual Financial Reports of IDAs reasoned that shortcomings in the quality and reporting of IDA data is largely the result of differences in the amount of financial and administrative resources of IDAs. Thus, larger and more active IDAs are more likely to be better able to collect and report comprehensive data. So how well are we doing, huh? Yonkers IDA, how well are we doing? Are we doing a great job collecting data? I'm going to check. I want to mention this. Though. There's a lot of information here, but I want to mention this. Uh, but before I do, I just want to finish off. A 1998 study by the Center for Governmental Research set out to specifically measure the impact of IDAs on job creation and retention, the value of tax exemptions, and the value of pilot agreements. CGR had been contracted by Empire State Development Corporation to conduct an evaluation mandated by the 1993 reform legislation. CGR was not able to fulfill its mandate regarding measuring job creation and retention because of missing and non comparable data issues they identified with regard to the Department of Labor's unemployment insurance records and IDA annual reports. Inconsistency in sales tax data reported to taxation and finance were also cited. In its report, CGR, I'm sorry, stated that it was unable to measure creativity and retention because the data was gathered in such uh, dis, dis, desperate, disparate, I'm sorry, ways that their numbers are unfortunately, oh, Jesus, I need reading glasses. That's what that says. I'm trying to keep the paper away from being in the camera, and the wording is small, and I need reading glasses. That's what that means, right? Oh man, I'm getting old. Somebody, I'm getting old. Anyway, my apologies for getting old. Department of Labor's unemployment insurance records and IDA annual reports with regard inconsistency in sales tax data reported to taxation and finance were also cited in its report. CGR stated it was unable to measure job creativity and retention because the data was gathered in such disparate ways that their numbers are ultimately unreliable when aggregated. Although the original IDA legislation included a provision that was intended to prevent the interstate movement of jobs, many IDA projects have had the effect of luring businesses to move from one location within a state to another. And now that's what they were referring to when they talked about or mentioned piracy. Unfortunately, a 1996 report from Assembly's local government committee found that despite the anti-pirating provision, pirating still accounted for a significant part of IDA activity. And I guess it's still going on because that project going up in Ravine over there, the guys are from Rochester. We pirated them. Pirates, pirates, pirates. What's a pirate's favorite letter? I won't tell you the answer. It's a lot of information, but I do want to mention this, and then I'm going to get out of here. And then I'm going to let you know who will be coming on the show. Just a reminder. But I do want to mention this. And again, you can look a lot of this stuff up, but I wanted to give you a lot of that information because I thought a lot of that's important. But there's more, and you can look that up. But this is one last thing. Recently, several legislative initiatives affecting IDAs have been enacted. The Public Authorities Accountability Act of 2005 will have an appreciable effect on local public authorities, including IDAs. The following are among the new requirements of this law. Governance, board members of state and local authorities, including IDAs, must directly oversee the board's officers, senior management, review, monitor financial and management controls, establish compensation and attendance policies, adopt a code of ethics, establish personnel policies that include protections for whistleblowers and guidance regarding travel procurement. Um, Board members are also prohibited from serving as authority chiefs, executive officers, executive directors, chief financial officers, or comptroller. In addition, except for board members who serve by virtue of holding a civil office of the state, starting with appointments made after January 13, 2016, the majority of remaining board members must be independent members as defined in the new law. Board members, officers, and employees of local public authorities must file annual financial disclosure statements with the County Board of Ethics in which the authority has its primary office. Board members must also participate in state-approved training regarding their legal fiduciary financial, and ethical responsibilities. Reporting. Existing annual reporting requirements that had previously applied only to public authorities created under the Public Authorities Law were expanded and made applicable generally to state and local authorities. The annual report must include, among other things, items related to debt issued by the authority, compensation provided to officers, employees, and directors, projects undertaken, disposal of real property, code of ethics, internal controls, and financial data. This information must be submitted to the chairperson of the legislative body of the municipality. To the extent practical, the authority must make accessible to the public via its official website documentation concerning its mission, current activities, most recent annual financial reports, current financial budget, and most recent independent audit report. The Act creates an Authority Budget Office, ABO, and grants it a number of powers and duties relative to the oversight of IDAs, such as the review and analysis of their operations, practices, and annual reports, the maintenance of comprehensive inventory of authorities and their annual reports, assistance to public authorities to improve their management practices and the procedures by which the activities and financial practices are disclosed to the public, and the provision of additional information and analysis as may be reasonably requested by the legislature and the state comptroller. Beginning on July 1st, 2007, and annually thereafter, the ABO must issue reports regarding its finding and analysis. Folks, I am Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. That was IDAs, industrial development agencies. Very important, play a huge role in the developments going up all over New York State, but particularly here in Yonkers, where my focus is, Westchester County. And I read a lot of information there, a lot of important information that pertains to you, city residents, also local labor. We'll be having a chat soon. I can't wait to talk to you, gentlemen. I have some interesting things to say, and I'm sure you do as well. And we'll be talking soon. So, folks, spread the word. I am Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. It's very late, but I'm here. I love what I do, and I'm informing you. Yonkers, I love you. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll be back next week with more of the YIDA and Local 456 because they have an interest in this as well. So we'll be talking about that. But tomorrow night, Sunday, the day of the Lord, the day we rest, we'll be talking to Republican candidate for Westchester County Legislature, James Nolan, District 15. The dude hustles. He works hard. The man works hard. He's out there campaigning. He's out there doing things, getting things done, making things happen. He's coming in with a track record. He's going up against incumbent Ruth Walters, Democrat, and we'll see. Does he have what it takes? I think he does. I think he does. We'll be talking to James tomorrow at 8. Please tune in for that. Please bring the questions. Please engage. We love it. I love hearing the comments. I love getting the emails. And again, next week we'll be back with more on the YIDA. And you heard some of the info. You heard some of the information there, particularly on job creation, job retention, extremely important. Local labor, I look forward to talking to you. Local 456, let's go. Let's get it popping. Let's get it popping. Right? Let's get it popping. Let's get it popping.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.